because we're 5 minutes into the hour and we have a very strict agenda today, as always. Very serious here in this course. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. I've put the agenda into our chat, so we're going to do a little welcome, a grounding, gratitude, talk about nature, which is this week's theme. The first 2 weeks are about going inward. So first week was self, so connecting to our own self and feeling into why we're here, why we're in this course, what our purpose is, tuning into what it is we want for this world, what it is, where our boundaries are, how we want to show up as our higher self. And tuning into self, tuning in, having a practice of tuning into self. This week is about nature. So expanding a little bit more beyond self. If self is good, then we can expand outward, but we always have to come back to self. And then once we're good here, then we expand out to nature. So, okay, yes, I'm a part of something more. So that's what we're talking about this week. And then next week is community, and then world. And that's kind of how we expand outward to show up and how we want to really be the change makers to create the world that we all dream of. I would first just like to welcome you all and honor the traditional landowners of the land where I am currently at. So I'm still in California. It is 12:07 in the morning, and I am in Santa Cruz, a beautiful part of the coast, Northern California. And the Native American people who first walked this lands were known as the Awaswas people, or known as the Santa Cruz people. And these are one of 8 divisions of the Ohlone Native Americans of the Northern California coast. So let's just take a little deep breath and close our eyes and just tune into the spirits that are perhaps with you, tuning into the elders, the protectors of the land where you currently are, where you're calling in from around the world. Just take a few deep breaths. Just becoming present. Honoring the elders and the spirits who came before us to walk with us, who we eventually will become. And setting this intention for guidance as we connect back to ourselves, as we connect to nature, as we connect to each other. And Karina, would you like to take over into the grounding?
Beautiful. So just keeping our eyes closed, just dropping into that state that Kate has opened up for us. Starting to expand our breath, deepening it as we breathe into all of ourselves. Starting to think about this week's topic of nature. And allowing our awareness to move past ourselves to everything that is around us in our immediate vicinity, in our broader community. Sensing the energy of all that is alive around us. Breathing in and understanding that that is what keeps us alive. It's what nourishes us. It serves us. It supports and holds us. And it is us in its very nature. Just taking a few more breaths, feeling into what it is you need to receive from this week's learning. And allowing yourself to open up to new perspectives or new ways of exploring life and also yourself in the larger story of life. With a big breath in and a sigh out. And just one more of those. And coming to have eyes open to see our beautiful community that is here, our nature community. So for those who have not come across me yet, I am Karina, and I'm co-facilitating this with Kate. And hopefully you had the opportunity to look at last week's learnings, a webinar, or perhaps explore and touch on also this week's. So nature in rising, as Kate touched on, is such an important key part of this course, because that understanding that us as nature, as self, and as being just earth in movement is a profound way of being able to ground into your purpose and into your gift to the world and into your activism. And so that's why we've incorporated it in the second week, because it is incredibly important for us to really reestablish that relationship with ourselves as nature, with each other as like interactions of nature, but also as this very earth as being our life source and the thing that we need to protect, because by protecting it, we're protecting ourselves. And so really feeling that in an embodied way. And so that is hopefully some of the exercises have allowed you to flirt with and introduce that concept of that knowing within our bodies, that animal sense of self, of that we are nature, and how do we then act from that place in that grounded way to be able to be part of the collective healing. And so to begin with, as we did in the PDF, if you got a chance to, is to touch on gratitude and why it is important. So we only incorporated a short blurb about, the importance of gratitude. But I think it's really important as well to go further into detail about why we included that and why it's seen as a key part of that interconnection. And so Joanna Macy, who we've mentioned last week and is one of my teachers, she actually incorporates it as a main part of her spiral. So in the work that reconnects, there's 4 sections of it, and we're essentially touching in quite detail on the 2 first sections. So the first section is grounding in gratitude. So that's the first element. And then it moves on to the honouring the pain of the world, which we'll also be exploring later on in the webinar. And then there's a few others that come in the weeks to come as well as being introduced here. But the reason that she starts with that is because gratitude is such a profound gift that we can utilize, and a tool that we can pull on at any point in time. And so it's essentially a resource for us. And it's kind of become a buzzword, and so people have lost the power of why that can be seen as a superpower, or why that can be utilized, or how important that is. And we utilize it for multiple reasons. So with gratitude and starting with that, it is actually, instead of it being a fluffy thing that a lot of people speak about, we've got to be grateful for things, and isn't that amazing, and that kind of thing, it's actually coming from the grounding. We ground in gratitude so that we're able to better understand what it is that we are and all of the beautiful life that is around us, and how we can then move forth. And so that is the importance of it. It's actually not an airy-fairy kind of like spiritual up here thing. It's actually incredibly grounding. It's about bringing us back down to earth and to the very core of our being and how we show up. And so gratitude is important because when we're looking at one of the key elements of this week, which is being awake. So being awake at this time in the world, we acknowledge, me and Kate acknowledge that this is a really poignant and powerful time in our human story. It is also quite a difficult and challenging time. And that is why gratitude is even more important, because what it does do, it allows us to reframe things. It moves us from the lack to the abundance. It is like if you're reading a book and there is the ups and downs, and we're kind of prone to concentrating and only seeing and internalizing the negatives of it, instead of being able to see that that book was full of the ups and the downs, the beautiful moments and the tricky moments, and being able to then reframe that entire story so that we can see it as one of our favorite stories, as one of our empowering stories of our ability to be able to stand solid in this time and look towards what's happening instead of away. So that constant challenge which we all will come across is that people constantly looking away and not wanting to see what is happening in the world. And gratitude and having a practice of gratitude, it gives us the resilience to be able to continue to, as activists and as leaders and as change makers, to continue to look at what's happening in the world, to be witness to really feel it, to be present, but to have the resilience to be able to do that. Because without gratitude, that's a big knock to be able to, because it is a challenging time. But when we really understand that, we live in this amazing life, and that we just being alive in itself is profound. And the complexity of how all of the things that have had to come in the past and all of the evolution for us to even have these bodies that we have to stand in this moment in time that we do, can reframe, and it becomes a radical practice that we can engage in. So this simple practice then becomes this complex offering that you can tap into and actually be like, okay, I'm going to look at life, I'm going to see what's happening, but I can also understand that it is also beautiful, and the great, what I can be grateful for in this moment, what I can be grateful for in this day, what I can be grateful for in my community. And it allows us to be able to engage better, to connect more deeply with other people and with other life forms, because we understand that profound interconnectedness of all beings. And that's where the ecological self, the gratitude, helps tap us into the ecological self. Because although it seems like a simple practice, it's like the ecological self is an embodied sense of being a whole animal self, as human as nature. And so it's like a doorway and a gateway. Gratitude can help us connect into that sense of self more broadly, and then practice from there. And so that's why we've incorporated it as a key thing. And so I really encourage you to find your own practice. Everyone's will be different, and mine ebbs and flows and changes and that kind of thing. And when I first started with gratitude, it was not natural for me. It was a skill I had to build. I tended to have quite a very negative mind frame, and it was really tricky for me to focus on the positive things of all the beautiful things around me. But it's like any skill, once you practice it, it becomes stronger. And now I find that I default into that state, and it does give me the strength to be able to show up fully every single day, and to see perspectives that other people can't see in those darker times, to give a light in a really dark situation. And as leaders, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide that light, that direction, and that ability for people to be able to follow, to respond, to stand up themselves, and to find their own. And so I really see it as tending to the gardens of our soul. You know, we want to tend to that garden so that our souls are fulfilled, that we come from a place of fullness instead of lack. And that really changes how we interact. So that is why we started this week in gratitude. And I really do encourage you to practice that, which flows on really nicely to what Kate is going to speak about.
Thank you, Karina. I just wanted to say welcome to you guys who weren't able to join us last week. It's so lovely to see your faces. And yeah, I'm really honored to be here with you all. And thank you for trusting us. And I'm just grateful. Like, this practice of gratitude continues to keep giving and giving. It really feels good to be here. I just went and saw The Biggest Little Farm. This is an amazing documentary. And that's how I'm able to be up so late and chipper with you all. And this documentary was so beautiful. And this course is designed to with the teachingology, which Karina speaks so brilliantly to, which is, you know, so much information in the PDF. And last week we talked a lot about ego versus eco, you know, being focused on self and my needs and my wants, or like connected to the ecosystems beyond, and how good it feels to be connected. And this film, this documentary, it felt so perfect to watch this just before our course, because this week we're focusing on nature, because, you know, the whole course, Deep Ecology, yes, this kind of like philosophical perspective or framework for us to view the world and our place in it in a more comfortable, perhaps, framework, where we find ourselves apart, not so alone and scared, and like from a society or culture that is so greed oriented or self or ego focused. Remembering that we're part of this web, this nature, this collective, this community that's working together. All of us here are here for similar reasons. So Deep Ecology, the framework, and then also the environmental activism, the specific tools to empower you to pursue your path, to step up for the planet, for whatever cause is calling you, that pulls on your heart, or your spirit or your soul, or however that resonates with you. And so the tools we get to more in community and in world, and then in module 3 and 4. But first, it's about connecting in, because it's not sustainable for us to just go out there doing, you know, with all the information and all the plans and just do. That's the masculine, that's the rigid, that's the old way. We're coming in with soul, we're coming in with spirit. We want to be regenerative activists. We want to regenerate. We want to like tend the soil of our fields so that we're not just we don't have like, you know, we don't have like topsoil that's drifts away with the water. We want to have like deep roots in. So that's why these first 2 weeks are so important. And today we're going to go a little deep. We're honoring the pain of the world in today's class. And there's an activity where we're going to hear from you later in our time together. And you know, I would love for you guys to be thinking about your intentions for this course. And if you didn't share last week, please feel free to type them in our little chat. What it is what you want from this course. My intention, for example, is to connect with you and to support you. So that's why I'm here. And if you have something specific, a campaign or a specific issue or something that has called you here, please feel free to share here in the chat as well as in the Facebook group. We would love for that to be an active space as well. So my little talk right now is about how nature is our teacher. And that's why I just loved this farm, the biggest little farm, because there's so much that we learn from nature. And it's just hilarious that we spend so much time in schools reading books and so little time just walking outside and studying the plants and the insects and the bark on the trees. And this is what the farmers found, is they would have a problem with snails eating all of the citrus trees, or the apricots, or the nectarines, like just snails. And their pond was full of algae and was killing the fish, and the ducks were like kind of sick. And he just like sat back and watched it all and brought the ducks over to the orchards, and the ducks ate all the snails, and like balance was restored. And it just, this is kind of the beauty of this week's lesson, is that we're so busy and we've got so much going on, and there's so many people to call, and like messages and distractions and stimuli, that we forget to kind of slow down and just sit back and pause and witness nature in its wonder and in its glory and in its beauty, and learn and appreciate. And I feel that we are waking up to this. I feel that, many of us have this knowing that nature has so much to teach us, and we're starting to see our systems even shift and resemble nature. We're watching businesses shift from linear models, so like use resources, make stuff becomes waste, to circular models where you design waste out, or looping back these materials to be used again, kind of like compost. Even composting, people do this. And we're seeing collaboration and localization of services and co-ops and communities and entrepreneurs conducting, organic and fluid business and working from remote areas. And, it's all kind of this interesting, there's struggle, and there's strife, and there's suffering, and we'll get to that in today's class. But there's also so much beauty in the way that the world is evolving, and I think we're at a very incredible point in time in history where yes, climate emergency, but also amazing human innovation. And so this is where we as warriors, as human beings, get to celebrate the innovation and the design, and this is where like voting with our dollar comes in. But I feel like, we kind of went so far out of touch that now humans are either sick, so out of touch. They're so sick they can't even tell when their body is aching for nature. They're tell that their body's aching for fresh food, or can't tell that their body is aching for fresh air or water. These sorts of like natural signs that are signals that our body communicates to us. But we're so inside, we're so enclosed out away from nature, separated from nature, that we're not able to kind of pick up on these things as much. And then there's others that are just aching for this nature connection and feel such a void. And so this is the point. This week we are trying to connect back to nature and learn from nature and be present to Mother Earth, and be present so that we feel a connection. So we're as Earth warriors or change makers. We can have our strategy, we can have our tools and our teams, but we also need to have this sort of like intuition, this relationship with ourself, so that we trust ourselves, so that in moments of hardship, we can trust our own voice to guide us. And I have a really beautiful kind of story almost, or this beautiful written piece that I'd really love to share with you, but I've gone over my time, so I'll share it at the end. So those of you who'd like to hear that, I'll share it at the end, and I'll also put it in our Facebook group if you have to leave. So, Karina, natural cycle.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Thanks, Kate. And I think that will be such a great thing to share at the end, because it's such a beautiful closing, and I always go away from it going like, I feel good. So I think that will be really nice. So natural cycles, and Kate touched on this a little bit, and I am absolutely in love with this part of my own journey of learning about how to connect with the natural cycles, and how to connect with my own cycles, and all of the things of how do we interrelate and interconnect with everything. And so, as Kate said, we live in a very linear society, so that very structured, go, 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 it's a straight line, that type of thing. And that is out of sync with nature, out of sync with the entire way that the earth moves, and how everyone has always lived. And so it's coming back to that cyclical kind of circular living, and how do we do that, and why would we do that? And so why would we do that is because it is then again once again that gateway to an ecological self, but also it allows us some wisdom to be able to understand ourselves better, but also understand others around us, what's happening in the world around us, but also to help make our projects and all of those different things more powerful and more successful. Because when we move with the natural cycles of, and I'll go through a lot of the different ones that are there, then we're able to grab that knowledge and harvest that knowledge and be able to apply it to our projects, to our activism, but also to ourselves, which I think is very, very important. And so there's obviously the seasons, and in different parts of the world this means different things, but understanding that there is, you know, for us where I live, there is 4 seasons, and so there is different qualities that each season harnesses and offers to you, whether you want to connect into them or not. Then there's the death and the life cycle, and nature shows us again and again that cycle of the death and the rebirth, and that natural way of how everything is, the startings and the endings, and how beautiful that can be. You know, we often see that in our society, in our very linear society, as a terrible, awful thing. And I'm not talking about necessarily the death of a loved one, but just the ending of anything, whether that be a project. We often like grasp onto it and be like, I started this project and I can't let it go because it's my baby, but it might be its natural ending. And so when we really feel into that natural progression of like, okay, well, that was my baby. I birthed it. It made an impact. And maybe this is the closure, the end of it, the time for me to allow to let that go and release that, so then I can allow more space for the rebirth of potentially something I'm being more called to do or can make more impact. And that when we understand that death and rebirth cycle, that's not a negative thing, but a beautiful thing. And we can take away the shame of when that comes with it, or the some of the grief of letting go of something that's important to us. But what I'm going to share more in detail with you is the moon cycle and the menstrual cycle, and how we can connect into that. Because I do believe that the majority of people who are part of our cause identify as women, and even those who don't, I think it is incredibly important for everyone to understand those cycles, and the cycle of a woman as well, and the connection to the moon cycle. So with the moon cycle, as most of you are probably aware, that humans have been connected to it, and I think archaeologists said it's like almost for more than 25 years, 25,000 years or more, that we have been tracking and paying attention to the moon cycles. So it's not a new thing, but it is something that often is lost in the importance. And the moon cycle and stages are essentially just a result of the different angles between the Earth, the moon, and the sun. So those two things. But in an energetic kind of quality, what the moon is known to rule is the feelings, the instincts, the needs, the nurturing, the femininity, the goddess, the women, the cycles. So the moon is incredibly important for the cycles, the tide cycles, all of those, the nourishment, the habits, the emotions, the receptivity, and all that type of thing. And so it's called lunar living when we connect into that. And the moon cycle lasts about 29.5 days is what they say. And that is very similar to the women's cycle. And there is a lot of wisdom to be able to connect into from these different phases of woman and of moon, because it allows us the time to be able to go inward and reflect on the new moon, where we think about, okay, that yin time, that time of rest, at that time of being able to look at what do we want to bring forth, planting that intention. And that is also aligned with, for women, the time where we are menstruating. And that is our own yin time, our own inner new moon time, that dark moon time. And originally, back in history, women were seen to be the powerful people to go to of the community when they were bleeding, because it was seen as the time that they were the most connected to the earth and to the spirits and to that larger intelligence. And I just love that, because it was when the communities would actually go and seek out the women who were spent time in this red tent or a such thing like that, to gather their wisdom, because that was the time where the insights and the womb space was most active, and the shields between different worlds they saw as the most thin. And so that was the time that women were actually seen as the people who were gone to, as the people who could direct the community and decisions that were made at that time. And so I love that story, because it really shows how we've moved from a reverence of like this amazing, powerful, honored space of that menstrual cycle to one of shame and hiding. And so it is a beautiful thing to be able to track the new moon, the full moon with your own cycle, to be able to see what days land on what things and the different qualities that align, because you can actually overlap it's this beautiful thing where you can make it your own wheel. You can overlap the moon, you can overlap the menstrual cycle, you can overlap the seasons, and you can overlap the larger thing like the plant rebirth, seeding time, all that type of thing. So the harvesting kind of thing, as well as the larger diary of life. It's this amazing thing to actually help us re-understand our profound cyclical natural way of being. And then there's the full moon, which is about more of that that time of release, that time of cleansing, clearing, letting go, closure, and that type of thing. So I would love to spend like a whole session talking about this stuff, because I could go into all of the different sections, but I feel like there's not enough time and space to be able to do that. But I do invite you to connect in with the cycles, whether that be just like even planting your own plant and seeing its own natural cycle, or connecting into your own wisdom and the wisdom that lives in our menstrual cycle, because that's that demystifying of our sacred cycles is part of our coming home to what it means to be woman, what it means to reconnect to Mother Earth, and understanding our own inner landscape, so then we can understand the outer landscape and our interactions between those two energies. So yeah, and I'll pass on.
Thank you.
Kate.
So natural cycles, nature as our teacher, part of our welcome, Jackie, hello. So we wanted to give you guys a chance to go a little bit deeper into your own cycles of emotions, and something that I think is really lacking from our culture, and I speak this is generalization, is kind of um, the emotional cycles of being human being. Karina just did a beautiful job kind of connecting us, menstruators or period havers, to that sort of rhythm within our own bodies. But we don't have as many outlets to express our frustration, and the cycles of the world at the moment, the natural cycles that we're witnessing as our earth warms and our climate changes. It's stressful on humans. It's hard. It's not easy, and especially those of us who are following environmental news, and our feeds are, whether we like it or not, full of depressing imagery of whales washing up, or, as I shared at the beginning, all these statistics around the chemicals and the toxins that we're constantly surrounded by, and it can be quite overwhelming. And so what we're learning from nature is to not bottle up these emotions or stuff them away, but to allow them to kind of surrender to these emotions when they come up, when they well up, when this like storm of anger or shame or fear or sadness comes, to allow it, just as we allow the rain. We don't try and box it out. Well, I suppose we go inside, which effectively boxes it out. But the point is that we're trying to kind of activate ourselves through the natural cycles with which are operating around us, but also within us, and like moving with this. So we're honoring the pain of the world. And this is where we acknowledge and express and digest and compost the emotions that arise within us, that we become more aware of, that we can feel and we can sense when we're awake. We are conditioned to kind of be numb, and not feel all of these things. So this is our opportunity to kind of feel the discomfort and allow it, and have no shame when we feel these things. Like, we are natural, these cycles, these emotions that are coming with us. It's all perfect. It's all worthy. It's all relevant. And so, and the only way to stay activated is to acknowledge the grief, is to acknowledge the sadness, and allow that stuff and move it through us. And just like we need that healthy soil to stand on, to be these like strong warriors or soft warriors, we have to compost that soil and compost the grief and the sadness and all of these emotions that come up. Happiness is easy, joy is fun to play with, but it's like the sadness and the grief, these like amazing nutrient rich emotions that we want to put back into our soil. So something Joanna Macy says is, our pain for the world not only alerts us to the danger, but also reveals our profound caring. And this caring derives from our interconnectedness. So when we have this sadness and fear and pain, it's just because we know we are a part of the greater earth. And if we didn't feel that, we wouldn't feel much. So we want to honor these emotions, allow space for them, and transform it. Just by giving these emotions space, just by acknowledging them, we begin to transform. But when we suppress our fear and our pain, that dampens our alarms. So we're not connected to the purpose of these emotions. Like, think about all the people that aren't panicking around the climate. Think of all the people that aren't that don't resonate with science. They're used to suppressing their fear. They're used to suppressing their emotions. They don't have outlets to express these or to feel these emotions. And so we're cultivating today our natural response, our natural, as we feel emotions, they're oftentimes trying to communicate something to us. Like, I fear about the planet. Totally valid. That is a healthy emotion. Like, you're correct. Scary times. And when instead of just fear, panic, don't do anything, we're going to feel the fear, and we're going to go deep into it and understand the root of it, and welcome it and create space for it. I mean, we feel this low, so that we are, we're kind of on this spectrum. We can feel the just as high of a high. And this is our kind of like task this week, is to really honor the pain of the world, and to really honor all the loss of the species, and the burning, and the natural disasters, and the suffering, and go there for the planet, and show that we're not afraid. Because I think that that's the biggest obstacle, is our own fear. I think it's closed-mindedness. I'm curious to hear what you guys think too. Always feel free to type in the chat box. And so, to show that we are resilient, and that we are ready for, rising to this calling, we feel we're going to go into the pain of the world, and honor these emotions, and allow for growth from the discomfort. Because if we can do that here together, we can do it out in the world. And we thought about having you guys each share your stories about your personal pain for the earth, which I'd love to hear. So if you do have something that you'd love to share, please share it in the chat or in the Facebook group. But because that's nice, because that makes me feel connected to you. But we decided to do a activity that is used in a number of modalities, to instead tap straight into the emotion that's at the root of your story. So think of your stories. Think of the emotions that you feel during this time that motivated you to sign up for this course, and let's tap into that, and let's shift these emotions, and let's give space to these emotions, and let's compost these emotions. So we're going to come into our activity portion of the course, and this is I'm going to set a container now. So this is a safe space for you to express yourself. We want you to feel comfortable. If tears come, allow them. That's welcome. It's natural. Whatever happens for you in this time is so beautiful, and normal. So no apologies. There's also no judgment here. So please, if you feel like you can't be a part of a supportive circle, witnessing other people's transformation, please just remove yourself. This is all confidential. If you feel like you can't keep this private, remove yourself. We won't be talking about this with other people. There's no gossip, no judgment. We just want you to be yourself, to allow yourself to feel some of this hard stuff. So the activity is where I'm going to say a particular emotion, and if you have this emotion, I want you to share when you have it. So basically, for example, I'm going to say fear is the first one. And if you also experience this, so I'm going to say fear, and then we each get the opportunity to share one sentence around when we experience fear. Okay? So if you feel like sharing, type your name in the chat, and then you'll be unmuted, and you get to say, I'm afraid of having kids because of how scary the world could be. And then if you feel that same thing, raise your hand. So this is where community comes in. So we're all like, wow, I'm not alone. Okay? And then we take a deep breath together. And we breathe through it. We're moving the emotion. So this is a tool that we can share with others, but that we really get to have for ourselves as well. So this is how we connect to each other. We're feeling the natural cycles, the rhythms of our emotions. We're processing them through sharing and through breath. Okay, so fear. I'm afraid of running out of clean water to drink. And you're welcome to say, yes, I also feel that, or you can just keep your hands to yourself. It's up to you how you want to feel. Deep breath. All right, Anna's next.
Hello. I guess I am most afraid of the time lag between humans waking up to the depth of our environmental problems and it already being too late for all of those species.
Mm. Feel free to type your name if you'd like to share when you feel fear. Courtney.
Hello. I put down that I fear that I'm not taking the right direction and helping enough or like in the right area. And yeah, I think that can be overwhelming and sometimes makes you freeze up a bit. So yeah, just making sure I'm channeling it into the right areas where I'm needed. Yeah. Mm.
Thank you, Courtney. You got Gabby.
Go ahead, Gabby.
You're all unmuted. Gabby, are you there? Oh, she's speaking. It says you're unmuted. Can anyone else hear her? No, okay. Yeah. Sorry, Gabby, we can't hear you at the moment. Maybe we'll go on to someone else and then we'll return to you and give it a second try. So if anyone else wants to put their name down into the chat box, that would be great.
Let's close our eyes and just take a few deep breaths. When do I feel fear? And something we practiced last week is pausing. So whenever we're unsure, whenever we don't know, one of our tricks to come back to self is just closing our eyes and just taking a pause and taking a few deep breaths to come back to our center, to come back to ourselves so that we feel connected to what we need. Okay, Jackie. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. One of my fears is that I won't find a path. One of my things is indecisiveness. So one of my fears is that I won't figure out the right path, I guess, in time to make a positive change. I'm sort of all over the place, and that can be quite scary because, there's the urgency and it's like we have to do stuff now, but then I don't know what to do. So sometimes that can be quite debilitating.
Thank you. Gabby?
We'll try you again, Gabby. No, I don't think it's working for Gabby.
Do you see that Gabby has two now?
Oh, does she?
Okay. Both of them.
1 second.
All right, we're gonna, hopefully Gabby can get her microphone working, but we're gonna move on to another emotion. But if you still want to speak to fear, you're welcome to speak to fear at any moment, anytime. Gabby, if you want to type yours, I can read it for you. So the next emotion that we're gonna hold space for and tune into the natural cycles of our emotions is anger. So let's take a deep breath and think about when we feel angry. I am angry that our political system feels so broken and corrupt. Who else has anger they need to compost?
I'll go. I feel angry when people put profits before the very thing that's keeping them alive. Did that come through?
No.
Oh, okay. Did I disappear? Oh. Hello? Can anyone hear me?
No.
Oh. Go ahead with something.
Okay. I'll read Gabby's. I fear not doing enough as a species and the regret that will come as a result. Mm-hmm.
Courtney.
Hello. Mine's maybe a little bit more random, but I get angry when people don't take the time to care for themselves or about the kind of foods they're eating, and they kind of like disregard their own health, because I feel like people just can't even look after themselves, and I don't feel there's as much hope for them caring for others or the planet. And I feel like, yeah, people kind of just go, I can do this or do that, and they just don't look after themselves. And yeah, to me that really gets me. Yeah. Mm.
Sorry, can I ask, Courtney, is it people that you're close with? Is it people that you know, like your family and your friends, or is it just people in general?
Definitely I feel more emotion towards like friends and family, obviously, but yeah, definitely just the wider population. I feel like even when you see like advertisements for food, and even just if you go to the supermarkets and you see because I think sometimes you can live in a bubble where like everyone's eating healthy and everyone's eating this, and then you go into a different community and you're like, gosh, people are just not looking after themselves. And then I see like, oh, I don't feel like there's hope for the planet in that sense, because most of that food is packaged in horrible plastic, and then it's kind of like if you eat healthy, then the planet's gonna be better. And so I kind of want to educate people more into health and then into environmental.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people don't take care of themselves?
Definitely like lack of connection, kind of convenience as well.
Lack of connection.
Like because it's just forced to people as well. Like all the adverts on the TV, they're not for broccoli, they're for they're for McDonald's. And then people have such busy lives that it's like, just take the kids to McDonald's or do this or pick up like a big pack of crisps. I don't know. And yeah, you kind of, yeah, you see that when you come, I've been away and like coming back to where I live now, and then you're like, gosh, like that's still, yeah, people are living on a budget and those things are cheaper, and I get like frustrated by that, you know, the crappy food is way cheaper than, you know, shopping for decent fruit and veg and things like that. So yeah, that gets me.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank
Jackie?
you.
And we got Jackie. 1 second. Where's Jackie? There you are.
Oh, okay. There we go. I think I'm not really someone who gets angry a lot, but there are times when I guess I get angry at myself, you know, because there are times when I know I could be doing something, or I know that there is a decision that needs to be made and I don't make it. And then I feel the effects afterwards and I'm like, I knew it. I should have done that. And it's just little bursts of anger, I guess, in your progress in life. And, you know, trying to be bringing compassion and all that. But it's just like at that moment, you just like, yeah, you just in that emotion. Yeah.
But I'm sorry, we're supposed to say if we agree or not, but I want to acknowledge you for hearing that voice at all, because that's that guiding voice that is, you know, you're aware and you're hearing it and it's bringing you places. So I think we're hard on ourselves for these kind of missed opportunities, and yet it's guiding you. It's all, you know, it's all perfect. It's you're listening, you hear it. So that's like so much more than so many people can say. Does anyone else get frustrated? Can anyone else relate to Jackie's anger? Let's take a breath.
Right, Elizabeth now.
I get angry at the sort of unawareness that's also paralleled by the selfishness of people's sort of short-term convenience and comfort over long-term sustainability. It's really frustrating for me to see, especially family members who kind of know better, but don't choose to expend any energy on making any change just because it's an inconvenience to them to actually have to put in some work around it. So that makes me angry and often to the point of rage.
Now we've got Sarah. 1 second, Sarah. There you go, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my anger is around, I tend to get really frustrated and angry with those that are producing food for us and those not caring about how they're producing our food. And I think, it stems from them being disconnected, which it just blows my mind that they live so closely with the natural world. Because it stems from a deep sadness, but I do get angry around that.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm hoping I'm going to try and share and see how my internet goes. Can people hear me? Great. I get angry and frustrated when I'm trying my hardest to be sustainable and I'm relatively, if not almost 100% plastic free, but how much of an effort in some areas when I go and to a different city that is to do. And that it makes me angry that it is such an effort, and that my options are so limited when it should be a lot easier for it to be just organically easy for me to access what I need. So that's what I get angry about.
Okay, so feel free to share if you still have fear or anger.
Sorry, Anna as well has popped in.
Oh yeah, great, Anna.
Yeah, sorry.
I get, mine feeds quite well into yours, Kaz. I get really angry about the offloading of responsibility, mainly by large corporations, so people who are producing plastic and emissions and these sort of things. It's kind of the most successful trick that capitalist structures have ever played on us all, that it's purely up to the individual to solve or to be reducing their impact, while these bigger structures that are the producers of these problems aren't really getting on board as well. Like, of course, it's all important, we do our bit, but, you know, it's an upstream battle if they're not doing it too.
And we've got Jackie.
It kind of relates with sadness as well, but it makes me really angry to hear or see the injustices on the people that don't have a lot to begin with, and then the fact that they're the ones who is experiencing the impacts the most. It's just like, yeah, it just makes me really angry that they're put in that, and it's so unfair that they don't even have a chance. Yeah.
The next emotion to compost is grief, and I can relate to Jackie. I feel anger, but I also feel immense grief for all the humans, all of our brothers and sisters who do not have access to fresh water, don't have access to food other than packaged food, the families that are in harm's way because of our excess. I feel such grief and sadness and helplessness. Grief.
I feel so much grief. I think it's the emotion that I feel the most, and this is for, particularly right at this second, is for the future generations and those we're bringing into this world, that we're not leaving them such a beautiful world that we were gifted. We've got Hannah. 1 second, I'll just unmute you.
I feel like a lot of my grief stems from seeing the amount of species lost, particularly in animal and birds, and just that future generations won't be able to experience the natural world like we are, and just how sad that makes me that, you know, we can experience such beautiful things, and I guess it's linked to anger that people don't care and they probably won't be brought back, and we need to do stuff about it now. But yeah, it's just super sad that we're losing all them, and yeah, they won't be here forever. So yeah.
Thanks, Hannah. Now I've got Courtney.
Hey, mine's similar to Jackie's. Yeah, I put down grief for animals. Yeah, especially, yeah, just all types of animals. You just see so many like horrific things when you're traveling or in the oceans or just online. And yeah, that definitely is one thing, the emotion I feel the most also is like grief and sadness. And yeah, I feel people have lost that connection to animals. Yeah, and I get sad when you see so many people like talking about it, but I feel like people don't know actually what to do. I feel like there's so much media around like all these horrible videos, but there's not a lot of people showing people like what they can do to make a difference. And I think that like what causes me a lot of grief is people like coming to me and being like, oh, have you seen this or have you seen that? And then you can see that people feel really helpless in that situation. So yeah, I definitely feel a lot of grief for like animals and even just, yeah, the average person like struggling to know what to do. Yeah.
Beautiful. We've got Jackie, just 1 second. Beautiful, you have a go.
Like Karina, I think this is probably the one that I'm affected by the most as well. And with multiple things, but one of them is to just imagine being in a state where you can't even speak out about your suffering and what you're going through. And sometimes people live through the whole life not being able to even have one friend that they can turn to and just be able to just release it, and that may be through environmental stuff, or that could be women, or that could be even people who are really passionate about something but they can't share it because their family doesn't agree, or things like that. And I guess because I've been able to experience such freedom with being able to share and express, but yeah, it's just being able to have that. It's a sad thing to not have people have that freedom.
Thank you, Jackie. And we've got a piece here from Gabby. So, grief that so many of us have become numb to the horrifying statistics and images. The fact that that this has become normalized causes a lot of grief for her.
And this is that disconnection. That's why we're spending time connecting to our emotions, so that we can lead by example, so that when we see the horrifying statistics and images, we feel something. That's what we want to encourage and support. So thank you. Beautifully put, Gabby.
We've got Anna now.
Don't know quite how to say this. I guess I feel a lot of grief for cultures and people who have been displaced from their land and their culture through, colonialism in the last few hundred years. A lot of those cultures are intensely founded on environmental stewardship and connection to land, and this is something that now in predominantly Western societies we're trying to reclaim and refind. And so I feel an awful lot of grief for the amount of knowledge that has been lost through this suppression of those people.
Mm.
Thank you, Anna.
How about shame?
I feel a lot of shame about the years that I did accumulate so much plastic and played into that system, that capitalist high turnover waste system. I feel shame for that.
Mm. I feel shame that I'm not doing more. I feel shame that I have a platform and I'm not having a greater impact than I am. I feel shame that I'm not doing enough.
We've got Hannah. Go ahead.
I guess it's sort of linked to what Anna was just saying before. Like, I feel a lot of shame that I have to, well, not have to be, but I am linked to the Western society that has taken over Indigenous lands, and that wasn't a choice by me, and I can make the choice to recognise what we've done, but I still feel that guilt and sense of shame that in the first place, like, their land. So, yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. And we've got Courtney. A second. There you go.
Thank you. I feel like I feel a lot of emotions, but shame's not really one that I recognize and hold close to me. But I think it's I've put a lot of work into like forgiveness, and even within other people, like recognizing like their pain and kind of forgiving them for that, and realizing that we've all got to like learn and grow together. And yeah, it can be frustrating when you're seeing other people doing things in a certain way, or you have regrets about past things that you've done, but like that's not gonna help you move forward. So I feel like I've done a lot of releasing and forgiveness for myself and also those around me. And because I think like people on their own journey, and lots of people are quite lost, and you have to come from that, because else you just can't help others. So lots of I've definitely had a lot of shame, but I feel like it's going, hopefully. So I did.
Beautiful. Thank you. And then we've got Sarah. 1 second. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. The shame I feel is around not speaking up, not using my voice enough. I feel I don't show up enough that way. So, yeah.
I think that we all raised our hands for that one. I think that's something that signifies our feeling. The something that we all perhaps have in common is that we do feel connected to this planet, that we do feel and that's what gives us these emotions that we need to do more. And that's that urgency of an activist. That's that we need to do something now. We have to do it. And next week we'll get into the team types and like who you are when you show up in a team, like what you kind of bring to the team. And that urgency to act is a useful quality, but we also, there's a lot more that we need to bring to our activism, aside from just like this urgency to act. And I really honor each of you for participating in this activity, and please type your name if there's any last burning emotions that you need to compost here in this space. So I might let's maybe have a few deep breaths, close our eyes, have a few deep breaths together, and just acknowledge any emotions that you're aware that you feel when you see things on the internet, or when you see people reacting, when we see people not reacting, and just give yourself a little bit of space, honoring these emotions, acknowledging them, feeling them, composting them, recycling them back into the essence of your being, the emotional rivers that flow through you, acknowledging this natural cycle of emotions, letting the emotions ebb and flow, highs to low. A few deep breaths. One from Gabby. I feel shame when I turn against the health of my body, as well as the wider body, in the face of anxiety caused by these issues. Mm-hmm. I feel compassion when I don't honor my body, or when I slip up. I feel immense compassion and empathy for the rest of the planet, and I'm full of forgiveness, which is interesting, allowing for the flaws of humankind. All right, we are over time, and I'm so grateful. Oh, Anna. Okay, we've got one for Anna, and then we'll do a little closing, and then be done. Mm-hmm. All right, Anna.
I just wanted to add something really quickly onto what Courtney was talking about the importance of self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others when you're dealing with shame, because that's something I really resonated with. That feeling of being debilitated by your own shame and your own guilt about things is something I think is really important for us to be able to work through if we want to actually be productive in making any change. And I read something recently that described guilt as lazy energy, because it doesn't shape the past and it doesn't change the future. And that's really stuck in my head when have been having those things about, shortcomings in myself. Instead of spending that energy beating yourself up about it, being able to quickly move on, like acknowledging it, but being able to quickly move on, so that you can actively try and change those things, was really useful for me.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Anna. Can you type that in our chat so we can share
Sure.
it with others? Thank you.
And so, Kate, do we have time to do the gratitude section?
I hope so. Well, how about let's do it, and I'll share the little written word. And if you have to go, totally understand. And thank you for being here, and just give us a little message on the chat on your way out.
Okay, so thank you so much for all sharing and coming with amazing open hearts and to connecting with this community. I cannot stress the importance of the honouring of the pain of the world. You know, a lot of us said that the grief is one of the main sections for us, and I think grief is just one side of a coin and the other side is love. So grief shows us how deeply we love, how deeply we're connected, and how much we care, and that is so beautiful. It shows us our wholeness, and like Anna said, it's so beautiful to be able to acknowledge these things and then move through them, because if we bypass them, they will get trapped in our bodies in different ways. It'll mute something. So it's very important for this expression and this to transform and allow space for them for a certain amount of time, to make sure that they serve that purpose so that they don't get trapped. Otherwise, we're bypassing a part of our wholeness, a part of our humanness, and that is really, really important for being healthily alive at this time, and for self-care, and to aid in avoiding burnout as well. And so to close that up, I want to come back to where we started in the very beginning, which is gratitude. And so I think it would be really beautiful to share one thing, whoever wants to share the same process as the practice we just did, on something you're grateful about being alive at this time in the world. And so I'm going to start and give an example. So something I'm grateful for being alive at this time in the world is that I get to witness such a beautiful shift and a rising of people redefining what it means to be human and to defining their own society. And so we do the same thing. If it's something that we're also grateful for, we do the hand and the breath, and then we add your name down the bottom if you want to speak next. Yeah. So that's what I'm grateful for. Kate.
Oh, I can unmute myself. I'm grateful to be here with you humans, and to have the opportunity to connect and discuss these things and be present to each other, and to hear you and to connect with you and to do my best to support you. I'm so grateful for this path. Well, I could be here all night. I am so grateful to have this opportunity to have co-created this with Karina, a safe place to be soft in this activism, a safe place to talk about these hard issues and be held by each other. I'm very grateful for this. Thank you.
And we've got Hannah now.
I'm grateful that there's still so much beauty in our natural world, and there's still so much life left that we can still save, and that we still get to experience that for now at least.
Thank you, Hannah. Is there anyone else? Beautiful, Anna. 1 second. There you go, Anna.
I am grateful to have been born into a life where my daily survival isn't the most pressing issue, so that I can have time to flex my energies into work like this.
And we've got Courtney.
So much to be grateful for. I'm so grateful that I live in a time where things like courses like this are available to me and to other people, because when you feel quite lonely in a situation, you can connect with all these people from all over the world, which is amazing. And to be born in a time where I feel like my qualities can really help people, hopefully. Be the light for people. So thank you guys, very grateful for this course. Yay.
And Elizabeth.
I am grateful to be living in this time, because I feel like those who are alive now and those who are sort of being born into this time, we're all sort of astrally chosen to be a part of the making of this history of humanity. And as long as humans do exist, this is a very, very critical time. And I think that we were all chosen to be here now and contributing and doing our part. And I'm really grateful for that, to know that that we're all chosen ones.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And then we have Jackie.
Funnily enough, I have a lot of things to be grateful for, but funnily enough, the thing that comes to mind is technology and social media. And it's something I've been conflicted about for a long, long time, especially social media. But it has allowed us to come together in this moment, to share our stories, to be here for each other, to continue making positive impacts. And at this moment, I don't feel negative about the progress of technology, or what social media is doing to young people, for example. I just feel a lot of gratitude, and also to you ladies, for being here, and for holding space, and for Kate and Karina for just creating this course, and being able to share your wisdom and insights and your journeys as well, to help other people. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. And we've got Sarah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so mine's very similar to yours, Jackie. I've been very conflicted about social media and certain technologies and things too. But especially after tonight, I'm feeling very, very grateful to be able to use the technology that is here in the world today to connect with all of you beauties, and also the other technologies that are going to be able to take us forward in the regenesis. So thank you everybody, so grateful.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there anyone else who wants to share? If not, I might just wrap it up. So I'll just give you one more moment if you want to type your name in. Beautiful. Okay, it looks like everyone who wished to share has shared. And I just wanted to say my heart is full of so much gratitude to all of you and these beautiful souls that I see as amazing acupuncture points all over the world, just healing and making their impact on their space all around the world. So much gratitude to every single one of you, and for showing up and for being here with me and Kate. We just are full of love for everyone who is part of this course. And I really hope that you got out of it what you needed, and that you can look at nature and interact with nature and be open and receptive to receiving the messages and the intelligence, the greater intelligence that is around us, that we're able to continuously draw wisdom for ourselves and for the world. And going forward is there. It is waiting for us to listen and to connect in. And so that's what I encourage you to do. If there is some concerns about your true north and where you're supposed to be, well, go to nature and tap into that wisdom. Listen, be receptive, be open, and be one with it. And you will find that that clarity and that true north will become clearer and clearer, and it'll become more and more beautiful. Every day I find that I go out and my life becomes more and more divine, because I see through a different lens that I didn't before. And so I just hope that you got out of the course this week whatever you needed to, and then next week we're going to move into community and rising, and that's a really exciting, we kind of shift from the yin connection creative to a mixture of the yin and the yang, so that doing the interaction, the community, how do we bring ourselves to the world? So I'm excited to journey with you guys next week as well. Kate, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yes, I have a beautiful written piece that I'd like to share with you. And I can record this and email this to you as well. I've already posted it in the Facebook group, along with the images of the murals that I saw right before we started the course, which was really exciting, that affirmed the path. So again, slowing to the pace of nature, going a little bit slow, observing where we are, and sometimes the universe or the guides or whatever you like to believe in give us little signs that we're on course. So that was a really lovely thing for me to see this evening. Thank you all so much. Feel free to close your eyes and listen to this little bit of beautiful words written by a woman, a deep ecologist, Selena Fox. Nature teaches us through direct observation, through scientific research, through spiritual practice, through mystical experience. Nature teaches us about the circle of life. Nature teaches us about birth and beginnings, about growth and development, about death and endings, about rebirth and renewal. Nature teaches us about life as strong and life as fragile. Nature teaches us about potential and manifestation, about life force growing a tiny acorn into a mighty oak. Nature teaches us about balance, about rhythms, about cycles. Nature teaches us about the interplay of day and night, the circle of seasons, the changing phases of the moon, the dance of weather and climate. Nature teaches us about creation and destruction, about order and chaos, about repatterning and transformation, about constancy and change. Nature teaches us about flexibility and adaptability, about standing strong, resisting, and pushing back. Nature teaches us about holding on, about changing our grip, about letting go, about falling down and getting up again. Nature teaches us about harmony, peace, and bliss, about struggle, conflict, and survival. Nature teaches us about cooperation and competition, about isolation and community, and about interdependence. Nature teaches us about diversity in plants, in terrain, in creatures, in humankind, in the biosphere of planet Earth, in our solar system, in our galaxy, in the cosmos. Nature teaches us about systems, micro and macro, within us, around us, beyond us. Nature teaches us about differences, subtle, moderate, and dramatic. Nature teaches us about varieties of shape, color, size, texture, dynamics, life forms. Nature teaches us to celebrate and sustain diversity. Nature teaches us about the powers of the ancient elements of earth, air, fire, water, and the spirit that interconnects us all. Nature teaches us the restorative power of rest, sleep, and dreaming. Nature teaches us the enlivening power of work, play, and creative expression. The importance of whole foods, clean water, fresh air, exercise, and service. Nature teaches us about communicating with sounds, gestures, movement, and silence. Nature teaches us the importance of listening, of being still, of reflecting. Homemaking, nesting, safetying, security. Migration, living in multiple places, traveling between. Nature teaches us to be aware and attuned to the environments we dwell in and the environments we visit. But there is more to life than what is within our own human thoughts and daily routines. To pay attention to our surroundings, to be aware of others, to consider consequences of our actions, to learn from our experiences, to understand that we are a part of a larger whole. Nature teaches us about nurturing, caring for others, caring for ourselves, participating, caring of the larger communities of life of which we are all a part. Nature teaches us about life, learning, and growth across generations, the importance of respecting and learning from elders, and the importance of guiding and learning from the youth. Nature teaches us the joys, enrichment, and therapeutic renewal of spending time unwired and unplugged in natural surroundings, of disengaging from human-centric activities in order to spend time developing awareness in relationships with other life forms. Nature teaches us to wonder, to appreciate beauty, to marvel in the blooming of flowers, the flight of birds, the dancing lights of the aurora. The sky, colors of sun rising and sun setting, the glow of full moonlight on land and water, the delights of rainbows and sunbows. Nature teaches us to value knowledge and wisdom, mystery and magic, the known and the unknown. Teaches us to value what has gone before, what is now, and what is to come, what may be possible. Nature teaches us about interconnection through synchronicity and serendipity. Nature teaches, pay attention, observe, reflect, learn, honor nature. Thank you, beautiful humans, for being here, for being yourselves, for following your path, for taking steps towards creating the world we all want to live in. Thank you. See you next week.
See you, Devo.
And that written bit is posted in our Facebook group. So if you would like to read that yourself, it's already in the group. All right. Have a lovely night.